Good evening to you one and all. Assalamu alaikum. With due respect to Mr. Shafiq, the organizer, and the team of his technical staff, I'd like to share with you some of the knowledge that I have gained from being a guy whose most of his life he spent at 35,000 feet. Not on the front of the cockpit, but in the seat as a passenger. I've got one other known friend of mine who is also in the audience, Mr. Aboobucker, Sanagatil. He's also in the same boat as mine, as I would say. Ever since Leonardo da Vinci drew diagrams of flights which never made it to production line. Ever since the Chinese started flying kites, the Red Indians dressed themselves up with feathers. All of them had a vision to see the earth from a different perspective. That's what I call a bird's eye view. Believe me, that view is the best view of the earth. Today, somebody is paying millions of dollars just to do an orbit around the moon. I suppose you have read it all in the news. So that's how fascinating the view is. The speech or the presentation that I'm going to present is called Taking Wings. Ever since the famous brothers, the Wright brothers, made flying a reality with a flight that lasted only 59 seconds and took a distance of 437 feet on the 13th of December, 1903. It took 14 years for the first commercial flight to take off the ground, but it was a seaplane that went from Tampa Bay to St. Petersburg. That was in 1914. We had many aircrafts that came in to fill in that travel of air travel. The aircraft that I show now are the ones that are no more in the staple. I would call the 767, the 757, the Lockheed 1011 TriStar, which is the one on my right, and last but not the least, the Concorde, which all left the service of the staple. And these two aircrafts are on the way out at the moment. The one on my left is the 747-800, and on my right is the Airbus 340. The reason that I'm trying to bring this information to you is that nowadays, when you are traveling, you tend to check on what are you flying or what are you traveling in. Don't I? Am I right or wrong? Right? So, we as human beings have put so much of trust in the technology today. Remember, an aircraft is out of the ground, is at 35,000 feet, with a minimum of 2 engines, or a maximum of 4 engines, and just 2 guys sitting on the front. Could you trust yourself to be at that altitude with just these 5 options? Could you? No. Because it's for that reason that when the aircraft is just ready to take off the first announcement that the chief flight attendant says is disarm doors and cross-check. How many of you all heard that term? Right. What it signifies is that once the doors are armed, and in an emergency, no sooner the main door is open, all the other doors can be opened with the least amount of action. So when the flight lands, you disarm the doors. And when the flight takes off, you arm the doors. This is just one aspect of it. I'm just trying to put in perspective what you hear. But I'm sure you do not know what they're talking about. And the next thing is they bring out the safety card. Which we do not pay any attention, do we? I think very few people give any notice to this information that is being shared. It's only when calamity strikes then you're lost for options. How do you wear a mask? When do you wear a mask? How do you find the nearest door to you? Because your mind is so much occupied as how and what time you would be reaching your destination that you forget the whole safety aspect of our aircraft. I have been in 2 such incidents. Thankfully, I'm still alive. One was an emergency evacuation, and another one was when a flight lost power in 2 of the 3 engines. The first thing that you're supposed to do is very calm, which is very difficult for a human being to do because everybody wants to get out in a rush. If anybody I would ask Mr. Aboobucker Sahab, any idea as to how much time it takes for an aircraft of 465 passengers to evacuate in an emergency situation? I shared it with some time ago. I just want to recall that information if you remember. Sorry? 5 minutes. Can I have one more option? 3 minutes, okay. One more? Yeah. The person who said 90 seconds had heard this story before. That's how he came to know about that. The 90 second is governed by a simple equation. A passenger aircraft which has got a given number of seats should have a given number of exits, including the normal and the emergency exit. That is the ratio of 1:100, one door is to 100 passengers. So if you take a 747, you will have 4 doors on each side. If you take an Airbus 320, you will have 3 on each side. So that's the equation. I'm sure when you get into the flight, the first thing that you're looking is, where do I put my hand luggage, right? Am I right or wrong? I could also help you as to tell you where you should put your hand luggage. I would suggest that next time you fly, don't put your hand luggage just on top of your seat, but put it on a forward part of your seat. So it makes it easier for you to take it on your way out. And you've got a better eye view on your bag, not on top of your head. I'm coming back to the safety aspect. Always, when you board an aircraft, look at the closest door to you. This is very, very important. I'm sure there are times you will have the door right behind you, but as a human being, you will be always looking for a door in front of you, because the door behind you will never come into your thought. How many of you all remember the incident that happened in Dubai for a flight that came from South India, Trivandrum? There was lot of confusion on that during that evacuation. for the simple reason people did not adhere to the very simple instruction, that is to leave their handbags behind. Everybody was clambering around with their handbags, and thank God nobody left us. They were all saved. What I'm trying to tell you is that's a typical evacuation which happened in Chicago. Everybody was saved with no lives being lost. And you can see all the emergency chutes are out. So, 3 things remember when you board the flight next. Look for the closest door. Look for that. Or I would always even recommend that you take a seat in close to the emergency exit, because it tells you to do what in an emergency situation. Number 3 is that remember, when there is a fire on board, never walk standing up. Always walk with your head as close as to the ground. I suppose I've been informative with the limited time that I had. I would thank you very much for this opportunity given towards me.